Thank you so much for coming this evening. It's so nice to see you here. I feel like I'm among old friends because I don't know how many years ago, I don't like to count. 1 or 2 years ago, I used to be the managing editor of Fence, and it was a truly formative experience. I'm Rob Arnold, by the way. I'm the executive director here at Poets House, and I just want to say that my time at Fence, I'm going to bring Emily up here in a second, and she'll be a real host, but my time at Fence was so formative for me. When I was... My first sort of like literary job was working at Plowshares. I was the managing editor of Plowshares. And then, I kind of learned a kind of lyric poem at Plowshares. And when I moved over to Fence, it completely upended my way of thinking about poetry in an amazing way. And I still think of those years as kind of the years when I learned how to read poetry. I was a reader for the National Poetry Series because of my time at Fence. I think of it as my second MFA. So it's really awesome that I can be here celebrating Fence and having you all here with us tonight here at Poets House. So with that, I'm going to bring up Emily and get the evening started. But thanks again for coming.
All right, thank you all for being here. And I just want to give a reminder to all of the readers. So with this mic, just make sure you get close in since we're doing a video recording, and then that will be shared and available for people to watch later, for you to share with your friends, with classes you're teaching. And before I start sharing my editor's note, I just want to remind you all that we'll have drinks and refreshments upstairs afterwards, and there's wine donated by 2 shops, thanks to Olivia, who's one of the current Fence interns, and she picked up the second batch today. Yeah, all right. Okay. So I wrote this editor's note in early April, and the conditions in the world continue to worsen. I mentioned a few of those conditions in this note. The note would be 100 pages if I wrote about all of them. April 9th, 2025, milky cinnamon infusion. I warm it up on the stove in Astoria, Queens, in the apartment I rent, a 3rd floor walk-up. I return to the image of a bright red cardinal I saw the other day outside my window, a male. As a child, I thought everyone remembered what they saw in photograph-like stills or projector slides. It was a surprise when I later learned that some of my friends did not dream in color or see images in their memory. There's cardinal red in the cinnamon I sprinkle on the warmed milk. This is nourishment, needed with all of it coming at us from so many fronts, as I remember how fortunate I am not to be subject to guided missiles, also a poem by Beth Roberts in this issue you are about to read. The earliest ones were heat-seeking missiles that locked onto infrared exhaust at first, and later ultraviolet radiation. The most advanced recognized as if by eyesight what they had learned and memorized using computer logic at the hand of human logic. I have this very simple ritual when I'm overwhelmed and overstimulated by it all. The cinnamon feels like the exact same cinnamon in Wayne Koestenbaum's Kugel exercises in the first pages of this issue, and the exact same cinnamon in Sarah Kamhahi's milky cinnamon infusion in the 3rd line of No Sheep. I guess now I should say the milk I drink is definitely not raw. Dudes, it is pasteurized, also organic and grass-fed. Cows get sick when they eat when they eat what their bodies are not made to eat. I went to school with children of dairy farmers who loved their cows like friends. These cows enjoyed the Sonoma Valley meadows of green, green grass. Why am I writing about milk? Not because of the New York Times article I read, Got Weird, milk is headed for its strangest year yet, detailing the glass of milk Nicole Kidman drinks in Baby Girl alongside TikTok influencers touting milk like it's the hot new thing. They are all drinking cold, fresh, out of the bottle in the icebox, pure milk. But what I'm talking about is warmed milk with cinnamon, sometimes cloves. I prefer my milk made impure by my hand, stirring in my pot with pinches of this and that. It warms my belly. I'm not here wearing a milkmaid dress like a trad wife. Still, there is a need for nourishment among so many people, including my students, friends, and family. People in Gaza, the West Bank, and Sudan are starving. The Edward Said Library in Gaza is one of the many libraries destroyed. Find a list of them at librarianswithpalestine.org. I pay attention to the important work that Standing Together, a group co-led by Palestinians and Israelis, is doing in the region, such as making human barriers along the front lines against far-right settlers who attempt to intercept food and medical aid into Gaza. Children in Tibet are robbed of their mother tongue in boarding schools, where Mandarin is forced upon them with abuse, reported by Tibetan parents and investigative journalists, in which monolingualism is proposed as pure and good, despite all of the research showing the benefits of being bilingual and or multilingual. Language violence and language shame are always woven into the dehumanization project. My partner's grandparents barely passed down their Yiddish or Hebrew, and my grandparents barely passed down their German, Polish, and Yiddish. English was the path to becoming pure and good American. At least some of that has changed. Many of my undergraduate students are fluent in multiple tongues. I still teach in rooms managed by the English department, and the creative writing program is housed in this department. What could open up if more creative writing programs existed as their own departments in universities or were housed in comparative literature instead of English? As the humanities continue to collapse across universities in the US, what if a joint departmental effort across the languages and humanities co-housed creative writing, which is undeniably one of the most popular introductory classes students take? What possibility for writing across all tongues? What might open up for the writings of the futures not yet being imagined? New tongues are already emerging. We must make room for them. Translation is part of this movement too. I wish Fence had the pages to include more of the originating languages. This is a goal I have, and one that will involve fundraising for permissions payments. It's my pleasure to share the translation section in this issue, edited by Cole Swenson. I hope you'll find the work she chose stimulating among the rest of the poetry, fiction, and other literary art in issue 42. I feel free to write all this really because Fence is independent. We are not subject to university or major corporate sponsorship, which may also sometimes result in various forms of soft censorship. When Fence accepts funding from an individual donor or foundation, such as the T.S. Eliot Foundation, we ensure that said foundation agrees to have zero editorial influence. This is a non-negotiable boundary I have. Fence does not compromise on editorial integrity. I have had a taste of what it would be like to work with a couple of potential donors and sponsors who communicated the sticky, self-serving strings they would attach to their funding. In their support of the Fence Modern Poet series, the Eliot Foundation was happy to sustain the already groundbreaking work everyone at Fence and Fence Books is doing, working our asses off to change the language, as Bernadette Mayer invites us to do. All that the kind people at the Eliot Foundation ask Fence Books to do is include the logo on the publication page and send them the book when it is published. This is the kind of funding and trust we need more of across the literary ecosystem here in the US, as well as internationally. If we don't move more drastically toward philanthropy that does not expect rewards of influence in return for support, there will be more stagnation within the kinds of conventional poems that I think of as just nice, good, uncool poetry, and more acceleration in the rat race of surface-level, short-lived trends. New movements need time and space to stretch out and become, to root and nourish new generations. So, the mission of Fence is yet again essential. The divides and debates of the late 1990s are in the past, but we find ourselves between new divides, bouncing like a ball in a game of multiplayer table tennis. It's fucking exhausting sometimes. Can we just sit down at the table for a moment with our paddles and listen to each other with some kindness? Last week, 20-year-old Fence intern Charlie Stevens, here, and I were talking about ways to invite more people in their generation to find refreshment in reading. They came up with, may we take a break from the shiny, boring algorithms? We've made Fence issue 42 out of an intentionally weird and messy collaboration. I hope you'll find it unlike the ever more manicured experiences we are sold these days. Thank you. Thank you. So first we have Leah Dworkin reading her story in this issue. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Is that close enough? Okay. Thank you so much, and thanks to Poet House. I'm going to read the beginning of a short story called The Flare. One afternoon, my husband stopped polishing his crystals, got up off his lazy boy, opened our front door, walked straight out into that rectangular portal of red light, and never came back. I expect he settled into the subtle hue of some other woman's worn upholstery, and is probably not too far away, though I have little interest in finding him. I only wish he took his crystals with him. His collection is massive and sprawling. Rocks clog up the living room. Prismatic labradorites green over when you walk past. A hunk of golden pyrite sits on the piano bench, glaring at the rudely splayed amethyst, who takes up half the seats of our sectional. Don't even get me started on the quartzes, which come in so many colors and varieties it's like a geologist's unfunny joke. I only know their names because I was subjected to so many years of my husband. Oh, do you know about the blah-blahite? The blah-de-blah-itzes? It's only ever been about crystals with him, and to put it simply, I've always hated them. I never thought I'd end up with someone like my husband, or rather, no version of myself would have chosen to end up with a man like him. As a young woman, I imagined a perfect choice would eventually materialize in the shape of a man, that I'd simply discover myself strolling the horizon beside him, entwined in that beachy dimension where lovers go. But love is not like that, not really. Circumstances set you up for the conveniences that follow until you're held together by the security of a routine. Which is to say, once the arrangement between my husband and me was decided, settling into our finite status was a relief. It eliminated questions, and I've never been a fan of questions. Questions do not relax me. As a child, I was taught that love was everything. The members of the generation who taught me that lie are all dead now. It sure was something to witness, how an entire adult generation took the diluted mythology seated in their own childhoods and let it morph into what they called wisdom. I'm nothing like the people who came before me. I'm not the sort to get moved by poetry or folk music or any other kind of fabricated magic. For 3 weeks now, I've lived alone. Many of his crystals are very large, and my body no longer possesses the strength to carry them down the basement steps. Where they actually belong? Deep in darkness, tucked in a bed of dirt. Up here, crystals cast rainbows on the walls throughout the day, dancing shapes that disappear, figments that mock me. Finally, to make it stop, I covered up each rock with a dirty rag. My living room, a shrine for stains. The quiet that took his place was delicious. I knew the kettle was ready before the pressure screamed. This place had been my address for my whole adult life, yet I'd never listened to the subtle music of its inner workings, water streaming down the pipes, the refrigerator's hum, the rattling baseboards used for heat. On a whim, I could enter whichever room and take a seat on any piece of furniture without being assaulted by the sight of my husband, comfortably reclined, bestowing wonder on some inanimate mineral as he once vowed to do with me. I settled into the cushiest spots of myself, flicked off lights whenever I was ready for the day to be done, and took his pillow for my knees. I could eat leftovers all week and no one would glare at me expectedly, crystalline eyes hungry for the next new taste. I could leave the shower and walk to the bedroom without any robe, my nakedness invisible, but not overlooked. My home was, for the first time, mine. Thanks to my mother, I anticipated that at some point I'd be struck by my husband's absence, pushed into unexpected longing, as televised widows or left-behind wives sit in window benches, waiting to be reunited with their man, a handsome ghost, or a limping one-eyed survivor. As the earlier days passed by, I was waiting for this new longing to catch up with me, to show me I'd been wrong, to reveal I'd actually had the completion I'd always craved, somehow without ever feeling it, my mistake. But as I sat at the kitchen table eating last night's soup again for breakfast, I was sure I was no lonelier without him. The last carrot circle in my bowl had been cooked over again for so many meals that it was fiberless. The spoon slid through its red center, and my digestion was as grateful as I was to have so much less work to do. Shutting my eyes in the blonde light of the morning sun, I could barely recall the bones of my husband's face. To my great fortune, his jawline had disappeared along with him, but I could not unsee his eyes, staring hypnotically into the fire opal's flare, possessing dual reflections of the hot neon core. How many breasts had I carved and plated for him to only look at me with that same set of eyes, but dull brown and empty, as if I had no breasts of my own? No, I did not miss my husband. If I had to miss something I no longer had, it was perhaps my youth, back when my skin still held the firm potential of becoming an admired thing. Never wildly alluring with my dusty hair and nothing eyes, but on promising occasion, in the darkening twilight hours, a construction worker had hollered, watching the waistband of my skirt walking away. I was in the middle of a hot shower and slippery with soap when the power went out. Everything changed. The shower stopped. I stood in total darkness, dripping. The spectrum of sound switched. There was an uncomfortable amount of it, though I couldn't fully identify what exactly replaced the pale vibrations of the motors. Cautiously, I stepped out over the porcelain lip of the tub, but tripped on a slipper and fell hard. The fall itself was a chaotic and forgotten blip once I was laid out flat, splayed and stunned by the slam of impact. Pain shot through my body, and I could feel an unbearable tenderness deep in the bone of my pelvis. It was a bone I'd never known, not until it broke. This is why I was not supposed to live alone, I thought, cursing myself on the cold floor, trying to ascertain if the pool around me was soapy water, blood, or both. A wind. I could hear it across the cold tiles, an angry broom sweeping the spaces between the man-made structures of the house. Who had come find me? The mutant who mowed the lawn? The chimney sweep who was to come in 5 days later to clean the flue? It seemed that even if the lights came back on, I'd still be stuck on the floor, only now under harsh brightness with no one to help move me. This was my fault. I should have pretended harder to care about my husband's crystals, to let the fatty plug me on occasion when he asked politely. Thinking back, I could have so easily left my nightgown on and looked the other way. Thank you.
So next, it's my pleasure to welcome Adam Tobin reading his poems in Fence.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, everyone at Fence. And it's such a joy to be part of this issue. And also, I just want to say, because you've handed me a microphone and it's June 11th, 2025, I want to say fuck ICE and fuck the U.S. military and fuck our billionaire overlords who make it all possible. And now some poetry. An old story forgets its youth when it began backwards to speak. A kid might learn other alphabets of musical notation for opening themes to be composed of those small songs one sings of no attention, bathing or dishes when the story streams to tell itself the mind elsewhere and the time threadbare, and behind that telling is a rhyme unmatched, the same word twice upon the page. The page turns to rage, the rage ages, and the page turns. No light, but what is your tongue whistling? An arm extended into a question I might ask if anyone asks me to, or marks time in a minor key, opening the hips, shoulders, elbows, inviting your enemies outside to throw shade on your home. A cool breeze brings no interruption. The animals vocalize wood sounds and trample mountain lilac bushes already flowered and gone, but contorted toward next year's growth. Busily taking census of today's compost, a woman writes, one rocking chair over, spilling into clothes of oncoming air. She sees mesh through which sees forest, wild grapes through which run squirrels, acorned oaks through which birds hoot, and which call, "Who cooks for you?" and which screech, creaking branch of pine for higher air. A holy wind makes bricks burn brick red below the legible chimney. Hymnal leaves fluttering a choir, queers clear requirements for successful service, or mass of bodies that chant I sing, a man of God, less perfect sense, more relentless hierarchy of desires overcame the basement's formal dance with potted ferns, like those overgrown border hedges that enforce the laws of psychics. Thank you.
Oh, Adam, do you want your bookmark? It's great. I like this shape. So now we're welcoming Chengru He, reading from her translations of Li Qingzhao.
Thank you, Emily. I have not practiced singing, but there is quite a bit of repetition in the translation variation. So if you have the copy, mine is on 126. You're welcome to join the repetition part. And the Drunken Flower variations, basically I've been trying to translate short classical Chinese poems into a series of variations. So there's a lot of different versions happening, and I'm just going to read slightly different with the printed version, which will end with the original poem, because I've been exploring both the possibilities and impossibility of language. And I thank my collaborator, Li Qingzhao, who is from Song Dynasty. She's one of the few female poets in history. Drunken Flower Variations. Tune of drunken flower shade. Theme mist, thick cloud, sorrow all day. Now dusted in the incense burner. Another Chongyang festival, jade pillow, sheer curtain, cold seeps in. Late night. Drink wine by Dongli in the dusk. Faint fragrance. Full of sleeves. Don't say it's not so sucking. Screams away in a west wind. Ren withered as the yellow flowers. Mist, wu. Mist, wu. Cloud, yun. Cloud, yun. Mist, wu. Cloud, yun. Mist, wu, mist, wu, cloud, yun, cloud, yun. Blue, blue all day. Dragon bring ash in the incense burner. Chongyang day. Jade pillow, see-through tent. Chilly, half night. East hedge. Raise wine cup after dusk. On sleeves. Fragrance come and go. For the broken soul, west wind, xi feng, west wind, xi feng, west wind, xi feng. Yellow flower, huang hua. Yellow flower, huang hua. West wind, xi feng. Yellow flower, huang hua. Yellow flower, huang hua, yellow flower, huang hua, yellow flower, huang hua, yellow flower, huang hua. Autumn. Light wu, heavy yun. All day I am unsettled, incense spent in a gold animal-shaped burner. It is another Chongyang festival. Fine pillow in soft curtain. By midnight, chill starts to eat me. After the sun dies, I hold a wine cup by east fence like Tao Yuanming, faint fragrance in my sleeves. Don't say it's not heartbreaking. West wind hums through the curtain, and I waste away alone with the yellow petals. 醉花阴，薄雾浓稠，浓云愁永昼，瑞脑消金兽。佳节又重阳，玉枕纱厨，半夜凉初透。东篱把酒，黄昏后有暗香盈袖。莫道不销魂，帘卷西风。人比黄花瘦。Mist 雾 West wind 西风 Yellow flowers 黄花 Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chengru. So next, it's my pleasure to welcome Darcie Dennigan reading her poems. Is the height good?
We'll see. You said kiss it, huh? Okay. That was so beautiful, Chengru. Okay, is that okay? Thank you so much, Emily. This is from a project called Commander. When the commander asks you a question, you have to ask the same one back to him. I can never remember to do that. Each time I don't ask him a question, he grows another breast. He's all milk and no suck, and I'm thirsty. The cherubim have 1,000 eyes, the commander 1,000 nipples. God knows I love to talk about myself. God knows I love to be told what to do. If you ask the commander a serious question, you get an answer or you don't. It's possible I'm just not a good talker today, just talkative. I'm just very erotic, a real doll in bed, though in fact I prefer the kitchen sink. I prefer the commander, shaven and unshaven. Everything is possible for me today, and absolutely nothing is. I've seen the commander's eyes, red and infected, and his third eye, his penis tip, also red and infected. And I've seen all three clean and dry. My preference was to kiss the infection, but the commander and I do not yet have that unity of form. There are only male national literatures. Sometimes people say something and there's nothing to be done. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry there are only male national literatures. I've just been really busy, and Kate's been busy, and Julia's been busy. Cammie was so busy she didn't even answer the phone. Rosalind, Lily, Olivia, Becky, Nikki, Patricia, all my femme friends have just been so busy. It's cock kissing that's keeping us busy, every single one of us. Cock kissing is all we do, and that is true. I'm only interested, in male national literatures, when their poor penises shrink in foreign waters. Nationalism is, it's like, if you need an explanation, you'll never get it. But anyway, nationalism is just like not really, it's on an unseen, tiny front line that are won the victories of our days. That was Mayakovsky. I just love male writers. I can't help it. I love little dead Russians, Germans. I love all the men writing. Sometimes people say, oh, but a woman did their laundry. And yeah, maybe, yeah. And yeah, if I'd been the one sleeping with them, it would be me doing their laundry. Yeah, but also a lot of them just wore dirty stuff. A lot of them smelled. All that's left for me to do is write a ladies' magazine quiz. Question 1. What exists without this man in the room? A, nothing. B, everything. C, Aristotle's visions of the soul. Question 2. Ladies, do you agree that art cannot be kicked around politically and whoever tries to do it will break his leg? A, that's just something a man texted me. B, it's not my leg I'm worried about breaking. C, nouns that rhyme with collagen, feminine, women, estrogen, children. D, also muffin. Is this a treatise or is this a poem? Well, if it's a poem, it's a really bad poem. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry it's a really bad poem. If only I had been homeschooled by a Russian or by a smoker. Question 3. Do you think if you read everything that has ever been written by men, you can kill your feelings for this man? A, I do. B, I am a little girl. That's it.
Thank you, Darcie. So next I'm happy to welcome Brandon Downing. And if you take a look in the issue, his what we might describe as sonnet cut-up collages are in full color. So you can check it out. Oh, whoa. Thank you, Brandon.
I am going to read some sonnets tonight. I think I'll read one from the issue too. But I want to talk in a very unformed and rather stupid way about sonnets. I've been attracted to sonnets for a really long time. Probably all of us have. It's an incredibly low entry fee. Is that fair to say? Right? I mean, when sonnets are really good, somebody could write sonnets in dialect that create an entire national language, like Petrarca, right? Somebody can shake up all poetry from the 1960s onwards just by simply becoming obsessed, really druggy, and recursive. Ted Berrigan, right? Somebody can obviously change the entire English language. You go to the English poets for that. You can go to Bill or John Keats and everyone else. So everyone can find their own little, their own way to get in. In fact, I think some of the fellow poets in this issue have also written some sonnets that I saw one called a pseudo-sonnet, and there's no such thing as a pseudo-sonnet. Just make it 14 lines. For me, sonnets are engine blocks. They are constructed, they're machined, and if you feed energy into them in the right way, something different will come out every single time. Obviously, that's not exactly how an engine block performs. An engine block performs because you put a consistent amount of energy or fuel in, and you get your pistons spinning, and the motion happens. But for me, they feel that constructed, that machined. The only thing to know about the sonnets I'll read tonight, including the ones that are in the issue, is my only rule is that the sonnets have to be made of pre-existing material. Whether it's something that has been collaged, as you'll see in the issue if you check it out, or it has to be something that somebody's written, something that somebody said, something that I've never said, that I've recorded, or that I've copied, that I've cut, and then I rearrange it. Sometimes I actually rearrange it so much that I respell entire words, and there's chance operations and all kinds of other issues. But, I mean, sonnets, come on, y'all. So I'll read some that aren't in the issue. I'll try to be on axis here. I'll start with 2 sonnets. Sonnets about the real sun. 1. I see people heading into crowds of people. I shake my head at the old kingdom, huddling together like that. They're all exposed to the bad news. I want to drive away. They can't discern a single meaningful sound other than the percussive rush of blood. Here's a fact about Pharaoh. He farts, and we all have to just sit there. I'm supposed to believe the sun itself has this agonized, squinching little face, that the sun can't ride 30 feet without falling off his perfect pony? Fine, but I can damn well look up and see the real sun. 2. Would you buy that? Oh, brother. Book's out, son. I got my check from the college, $5 million. They found me a Pontiac Trace when I complained. I drove out and did a reading in Iowa City in front of angrily determined young women. In my novel, forget it, I can't hear. Whatever someone reads can be re-expressed. Other writers want to break your neck. I ought to bake them a tart, fill it with lead solder. You can put it right where the ad says to put it. Humming along like an offshore finance hub. I'm sure what? It's only the sun. I'm not walking away until my kid's manning that wheel, treating the sun like his own little ATM. Those were for Otten. Family sonnet. The insects rattle and rasp. I was infected by my family with steroids or whatever. Now, I have 4 teenagers of my own, moping around and raking up dog crap. I bought a 6-pack of beer. It's been infused with spruce. It is so delicious. We're only staying in Virginia until I'm allowed to ship some unfortunate bodies home, and that's it. I'm giving a talk soon. Stay calm, read or something. You've swelled up around the injection point. Sonnet. Get ready for a devastating Christmas. What do they mean, Santa? Fake bullshit. I forgot to thank many of you here. Quickly, think of which fast food franchise's television ads use the most live licking flames. Wrong. It turns out they all do it about the same. Frodo Baggins, for example, strode pretty resolutely through the hottest environs of his time. He didn't just grab a taco platter and run off, like you, trying out your latest hustle from home, clawing at folks like Gollum. I fought back hard. Oh, but he took me. And then he cheated on me because of my age. All that effort had better have meant something. Sonnet. I'm on so many pills I smell like a dark room. I am a machine-made blade and I can cut through anything, wrote Mary Oliver. I could never connect the voice with the man, where stepstone platforms run clear to the river, and I sell drinks and food to the swimmers. I put up huge statues of animals, clutching other animals. I do what I can to promote what I like. I'll walk down to the pier for a little bit after having encounters, to see these massive, glowing, humiliating things one last time on drugs. At least that's what I think when I'm on drugs. The wheels of the society spinning like pyramids. Halloween. Every doorbell on the streets going dang, dang. And the houses open up like old artichokes. The zombie men and women are packing. Everybody is yanking their grates down. Werewolves out riding around in new buses. This is scary. These monsters are trying to define us. Better switch on my power saw. Later tonight, once all's well, I'll head down to the shore and masturbate on the warm rocks. Keep that featherlight alien metal hid until I get back. I'll steal us some beer. German women from the service show up to spread ashes around the party site. And I'll finish reading one of the sonnets that's in this issue. The ones in this issue are from a book project called The Americans that I started writing on January 6, 2021, excuse me. This one features Donald Duck, but Donald is somebody else in this poem. Guess. And I have to apologize. It's probably because of me and this color artwork that the current issue is $130, but it is what it is. Yeah, this was actually written on January 6th. Americans overdosing. One never exists without the other. The image that you see there, said Donald, is in the possession of the Residual Public Museum. From then on, he continued to delight and, when possible, to be severe. The dominant feature of the organic structures was knight armor. The number of his admirers grew, whether he was a star of light or the action of light. Their styles covered the full range of dark powers. It was only a row of little rings. It can be found. Some of its eyes were put out. And that had been my main demand. Thanks, Vance.
Thank you so much, Brandon. That was awesome. So now I'm happy to welcome Tracie Morris, reading from a collaborative piece she made with Charles Bernstein.
Hello. Hi, Poets House. Hi, Fence. I'm very honored and happy to be here and to be part of issue number 42, because we nerds know 42 is the answer to everything. And I was just like, I'm just being a nerd. But then I look behind me and there's 24 Fence books, and that's an inversion of 42, so it actually is the answer to everything. So I'm just saying, when y'all are feeling down, y'all better look for the synchronicities, because they're telling you that the route out is straight ahead. So Charles and I have been working on collaborations for about 20 years, and so I'm very proud that this one is in here. It's a little long for me to read the whole thing, So yeah, and they become more ornate. So I'm just going to read an excerpt from a couple of pieces and a couple of sections. We decided to do a different format for this. So I hope you find it interesting. Guess who wrote what? And then tell me, because it's been a while. And anyway, I kid. Somewhere between the slush and the Ides of March is Black History. I find it telling. Do tell. No, rally. I mean, really. Folks focus on the shortness of the month's breadth. I like to think on the magic of the day's last. How is it that February is the only month of magic? I mean, Julius and Augustus effed with the symmetry of the calendar names because they were sweating a certain season, but still, there's a leap of faith in survival that's so black it's blue. A month to jump the broom, the only time it can get close to certain people's feet. A groundhog peeks to snowflake discomfort, says, "I'm gonna give you a heads up," said the groundhog. "Prepare for the sun or the snow. I'll let you know." By the way, Puxatawny Phil, never wrong. Him and his descendants, never wrong. Not that guy in Staten Island, but no, Puxatawny Phil, never wrong. I'm just mentioning that. So look next year. He's always right, him and his children. An art to grit teeth grinding. So I guess what I'm saying is, interrupting, even though we got the shortest month, we got the one with the magic groundhog. I'm just, mentioning things. Perhaps the sun or the snow. I'll let you know. An art to grit teeth grinding, keeping your head saying, same old, same old. Wind, sun, sprung, tornado. Maybe be a bad one. Hold on to your Samedi hats. Could be a brusque one for buskers. The long march continues as if February never happened. That's the hardest part. Like Sisyphus rolling the burden up a way, slowly, bit by bit, taking breaks every once in a while, losing and catching your breath, putting all your energy, more than you thought you had, more than you actually did have, into the final push of the mountaintop where you arrive, exhausted, happy, looking out for the supreme vista with a sense of freedom from the weight that you've been carrying for so long, only to have the terrible loud crash onto the ground. Can we begin again? Maybe that's what old age tells me. I did not write that part. That the moment of freedom is also the moment of catastrophe. Let me say that for the basic facts for the back. Maybe that's what old age tells me. That the moment of freedom is also the moment of catastrophe. Look back on this in a couple of months. That was me saying that. That there is, for sure, that there is no progress, only struggle. Struggle to keep your head above water. Or I guess I should say, this me. Keeping your head above water. Okay. Or that progress is never final and the gains made are not ours to keep. Pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. Antonio Gramsci said that, and I think it applies to politics as much as art. No relationships as much as science. The promised land is not a place, but a way station. Here's to way stations out of no way, just us. Dear Metal U, we slid into women's history brushing up against black letters. A crux or a segue, or both. Liminal middle, I suppose. I got one foot on earth, this here terra firma. Meanwhile, my eyes are farther away, tracing each east word. I think it's outside of Poet's House, those things that I put on the glass. Is that rumble I hear? Is it the train? Or is it just a grumble? Are we trained? Nevertheless, what I do like is feisty and smooth. I'ma say it like this: feisty and smooth. The brutalism of nerds is a thing to behold. We know bullies and bullshit, so why raise a voice, a finger? You can speak Siri to Syria. That's not me. I don't speak to machines. So don't come on trying to help me. It's a poem. That's me. Talking book to Bella's ruse. Close a bank, and by all accounts, it's all off. Back in the day, we would have called that kneecapping, and I guess you can say I do enjoy a digital old school. Women master the low-key conversational shiv. Had to, otherwise they're one toe in line away from a beat down. The psychology ides of the mind probably came from Sigmund's mama. I mean, who the hell dealt with his, as a teenager, temerity? By the way, are we in the 70s or 50s now? Is it nostalgia or regression? What are you up to these days? Looking forward to? I mean, where'd you come from lately? Google? La Gaga. Merci.
Thank you so much, Tracie. And I'll move this up for Wayne a little bit. So it's my pleasure to welcome Wayne Koestenbaum, reading his poems. And check out the broadside, which has an excerpt from Kugel exercises. And this one wants to be touched. Like, it really wants it. So I'm going to pass it around, and you can check it out.
What a fun reading, and clearly what a great issue. So thank you, Emily. Really, the voices, really incredible. I'm going to read my two poems that are in this issue. The first is called Kugel Exercises. You could decide whether you wanted a bisexual for dinner. You could decide how many bisexuals to ask for. You could get as many bisexuals as you wanted. Do you include cinnamon in your kugel? Keep control of the kugel and hone it by diligent practice. Rivulets of the kugel. She made kugel and discussed its merits, but also made fun of it. And then you start grieving for Butter's sake, as if Butter were a member of the family or a devoted neighbor. The butter was meant to be ignored. Keep the butter far away from the gentle faculties. I did a great job of shaming the butter. Kugel we could classify among the irretrievables, related to the romantic figure of the swan. The reign of the disciplinarian ended at noon when she distributed flash cards, each containing a declension. You could clench the kugel like an oration divided into mother and son and delivered without shame at the funeral. She threw a party at the Taft Hotel. Lerner and Lowe lounged on the couch, each convinced that the other man had made a mistake. I fell asleep at the party. I was in my 30s, and I despised the word human. Like hummus, it belonged to the realm of wedding registries. With no one alive could I discuss his suicide. Even after decades, you may still feel bruised by his departure. His ex-husband never came up in conversation. And Elysian fields of ex-husbands. He shamed you on the steps of the fire station. Impersonate the tyrant who forbids dirge and barcarolle and rondo. Some toys last decades and some toys perish. Don't hold on forever to one toy. Create a toy out of each day's suffering. And thank you. And now a slightly longer poem, the second one. It's called The Wittgenstein Urinator. That's Ludwig Wittgenstein, who was a bad teacher, apparently. Can I be heard? I hope so. How salty are his testicles, how reputation-oriented, remembering perpetual rebuke and a flat surface on which the rebuke rests. We let our gaze plunge into the rebuke because the unguent is your father. He sits on the branch, the only child, a simple, stern English fellow. The grandmother insists on receiving a decent portion of cake. My yellow legal pad, a testimony to last night's meatloaf. The bird talks to herself in bird language. The bird instigates a book club for other birds. Stack up the obstacles like a game of battleship with a smelly boy. Pie slice served by neighbor girl on pie restaurant's opening night. Pie restaurant entirely staffed by neighbor girls. Man on the beach said I looked like a disgraced Jewish comic, as if 13 testicles were piled up inside a human head. Shake the head and the testicles bounce around inside the gourd like a puff pastry careerist, or a bus at midnight climbing the Neapolitan hill, berated by the football coach for being a goat cheese advocate, typing the curiosities as if taking dictation from the rhomboid thief. He is tall, so the urine comes from on high. And I am the disgraced burger, B-U-R-G-H-E-R. I am the disgraced burger in charge of the Bible study group in my beach town. My scriptural circle jerks interfere with the aerial urination antics of the pantoum addict, absent any ecclesiastical information. The Wittgenstein urinator is dead. He who urinated on philosophical investigations as a habitual interruption, asking the starlight if it were a bicycle forbidden to 13-year-olds. The poet who leaned to the side when she walked and said, "Y" instead of H. She loved the letter Y, its ogre capacity. Absence of shade permits the red light bulb its illusion of sovereignty. Bonnie and Clyde hit a wall, and they named the wall their mother or their governor, a term of endearment for an older gentleman with maternal characteristics. In the bucket of peaches I lay, peaches on top of me, their nectar rising over my head. I didn't mind being drowned by peach juice, reaching to the bottom of the nougat fable to chew its moral. Peach is part of the moral, but not the most important element. I wrote a gay story about a peach and a mother with unzipped blue jeans. We are in the habit of mentioning peaches. Let's not see the lobotomy movie tonight. Instead, let's see the movie about derangement and torture on an imaginary island with a felled tree or a filleted tree. Fells Point vodka gimlets for $2. Row your boat along the rim of the paper cut. Don't fall into the blood, and don't make the flood a threnody, as if stupor were the governor and the subway, as if stupor were the godfather of the peach bucket. How many peaches in the bucket? And is my slumber mid-bucket noticed by the sleep patrol? Their duty is to prosecute slumberers, arraign them for lethargy. You could fit 4 fingers inside him. Did the four fingers tell a story you would like to explain? Will the explanation last longer than the story? Thank you. And thank you, Emily, again, and thanks to Fence.
I laugh every time I hear and read that poem. I mean, I've read it like 100 times, so yeah. Thank you all. Let's have another round of applause for all of the readers. And please stick around. So we've got the issue, we've got the broadside, subscriptions, memberships, please support Fence. And upstairs we have refreshments so we can hang out. All right. Thank you all.